Hey guys, in this video we're going to be checking out the Makerfire Armor 90, and about a week ago I did a review on the Makerfire Armor 67, a smaller version of this. It's a little bit bigger. It's got 1935 props, not 1535, and 1104 motors. Comes with a bunch of stuff here in the box, so I'm going to go over it really quickly. It has these prop guards that are mounted on underneath the motors here, and these are some spares. So you get the ones that come on here, and you get 4 spares. You get a set of spare propellers. These are the King Kong 1935 props. They're pretty decent props, although they're some of them have been known to be pretty fragile. But hopefully these prop guards will keep them safe. And the spare screws for those props are also included. They're including this Velcro strap, but not needed because there's some bands underneath. I'll show that in a second. You get this nice USB cable here. Get a Allen wrench for the screws. And you get a USB charger. This is 5 volts, 1 to 2 amps. Output is 800 milliamps. And since this comes with a 2-cell battery, it has a little 2-cell balance lead, of course. They do give you a bunch of stickers here, and that's for putting on top of this canopy on these little flat sides of the top here. It's a hard plastic canopy, it's not TPU printed. The battery that it comes with an XT30, it's a 350 60C battery, and this is actually a little bit better than the King Kong with the GST connector, and not quite as good as the GNB battery, but it's still a pretty good battery. So here's a quick look at the manual, and here's some of the specs here. 1104 7500 kV motors, 4-in-1 ESC, 10 amps, and this comes with an Omnibus F3. I'll show you that in a second on the quad. The manual does come in English and in Chinese, and I would say this is probably above average for the manual. It's fairly understandable in terms of setting it up. But there's really not a whole lot to be done on this, as I discovered. It pretty much is ready to fly out of the box. So here's a look at the drone itself. You got plastic prop guards here. They're not 3D printed. They're a little bit flexible, so they should give, but there's a pretty decent sized gap there. So a 2-inch prop might fit in here if you want to try the gem fans. Although then you probably might be risking prop strikes, because the props are right in line with the prop guard there. So if you do hit anything right on the side, you're probably not going to get cut by the props. So we got some 1104 7500 kV motors on here. Pretty beefy motors. This runs on 2S, so it's got plenty of power. You got a 4-in-1 10 amp ESC BLLES and a Omnibus F3 flight controller with an OSD. These are 20x20 boards. The camera in here is the same one that came on the Makerfire Armor 67. It's the VM2751. I guess this is like the Pro version that has the video in and video out for connection to the OSD, and it does. The OSD does work on this camera, so it's the same one that came on the other model. You get two little holes here in the canopy for changing your PAL and TSD button in the front here, and your band and channel button in the back here. And then you have a right here sticking out is the receiver antenna. This is Spectrum DSM2 receiver, and it was a little bit fiddly getting it out of there. It's actually inside underneath this canopy. You can either take the screws off, which is actually harder, or you can try and fish it out of this hole here on the side, which is what I did. So you have to fish the receiver out, and then you have to press and hold the bind button while plugging it in, and then the receiver will go into bind mode and it'll start flashing, and then you can go to your transmitter and initiate the bind from your transmitter. Usually it's just holding the bind button down and then turning the power on your transmitter. That will then bind, and then you'll get a solid light. And then you want to power everything off and then power it on, and then make sure you have a solid, then you know the bind held. And then when I stuck the receiver back in here, I put it in backwards so that I could run the antenna up through this little hole here. Because normally the antenna is just kind of stuffed inside, and I just wanted a little bit, I wanted to make sure it was straight and kind of exposed so you get better reception, so I actually did that. So underneath here you can see how the frame is constructed. They got the cutouts here to save a little bit of weight. It's pretty strong still. I did try flexing this, and it doesn't have a lot of flex. They have this sort of unique battery mounting system here. These square rubber bands, and the battery that it comes with fits perfectly in there. I also have these GNB 350 batteries, and they also fit in there as well. These are a little bit bigger, so it stretches it out a bit, but they also fit as well. You could probably fit some other size batteries in here if they're taller, perhaps. It does stretch and give. So like on the Makerfire Armor 67, they did the same sort of design where they have a cutout here on the bottom, and then the ESCs are exposed, and the ESCs are right on the bottom plate there, like that. And I think having that design keeps it a lower profile so that the stack isn't so tall. I actually like that design better. And this one you have an XT30 connector, not a JST. And I think just because I think they made the right choice here, because these 1104 motors are going to be drawing more power. And since these have 4 amp 1001 ESCs, you can do 3S on this. I believe it shouldn't be a problem on the smaller prop, and I'll probably try that at some point in the future, but not for this review video. I'm just going to do the stock battery. I think that having a smaller battery is probably going to be better, because even I think even with the prop guards, and even though they're lighter and everything, and with this canopy, it does add a little extra weight there. So actually, speaking of the weight, I'm going to go ahead and measure that for you. Okay, so this is without the battery, and this is surprisingly very light, only about 61 grams. If I remember correctly, the Orange 85 and the Jumper XA6, they were about 25 grams heavier than this, because those 3D printed prop guards were just so heavy. So they actually, I think the designers again at Makerfire, they kind of know that was a bad design, and they looked at this and they said, okay, how do we make this lighter? And they put in these really light prop guards and reduce the height of the stack here. I don't think this canopy is all that heavy either. I'm surprised it's only 60 grams, so it should fly pretty good. So like the Armor 67, this one came with Betaflight 317 pre-flashed, and it just came with default PIDs. The 67 flew totally fine on the default PIDs, and I'm expecting the same out of the 90. So if you're looking for something that you can just basically bind and then just make a couple changes, I think this is a really good option. I didn't have to flash it. I just went into Betaflight and I added switch arming on the modes. And let's see, what else did I change? I don't think I changed anything else. I did check to make sure that the channels were mapped properly and the direction of the channels was correct. It was. If it's not for you, then you should obviously reverse them. I didn't change any of the PIDs. They're the default PIDs in Betaflight 317. So if you normally do stick arming, I don't think you need to change anything. You can just bind it and then go fly it. But obviously, I would caution you to still connect it to the computer and check to make sure that your channels are mapped correctly, because if your transmitter and the channel mapping on the flight controller are different, you could get an accidental arming when you plug in the battery, and the quad will just go full throttle on you. So just be aware of that. That happens if your channel map is off from what is in basically what the flight controller has versus what's in Betaflight. So if you guys are looking for a CLI dump on this one, there's not going to be one, because it's just stock Betaflight. So basically I'm going to take this and fly it as it is. So there's really no need for a CLI dump, because I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have to do any tuning on this. They've done a really good job in the design. They've chosen good components. So generally speaking, when you do that, it'll fly pretty good with the stock Betaflight tune, which is really kind of like, supposed to cover most configurations out there. So unfortunately, the gardeners were cutting the grass at this park today, and I wasn't really able to fly all over the place, but I think that I wouldn't really take this particular model too far away, because the spectrum receiver that's in here is pretty prone to failsafes. I got a bunch of failsafes while trying to fly it in the house, but I don't think I got any failsafes while flying it at the park here, but I did try to keep it close. You can see here I crashed it into the tree, and actually had a couple crashes, and it holds up pretty good in terms of landing in the grass and stuff. So if you're worried about durability, I think this model is pretty good for that.